Joining me now, Sam Nunberg.
Yeah,
Sam was a longtime advisor to President Trump, political advisor. He was also part of the Trump for President campaign 2015, and he's now a senior advisor to Steve Bannon, who's back, by the way, for the new political action committee they started, Citizens for the American Republic. They got like 25 people on staff. They're doing polling, and they got a big rally today in New York, upstate, I think, some places. First big rally. Bannon's going to be there. Sam, good to have you, man.
Yeah, great to be on. I'm sure we'll get Steve on tomorrow. He's just loaded up.
We're not going to talk about baseball.
Congratulations, by the way, on the new station.
Thank
tomorrow.
You. I appreciate it. You know, it's an FM station. It was gospel. We just put a team together, purchased it, turned it to News Talk. And what we're trying to do, Sam, it's called the MAGA Radio Network. I'm trying to perfect a model that would allow us to buy stations that make sense in key areas that we need in order to carry the MAGA message. So that's kind of what my vision is behind it. I know I've talked to Steve on it, and we're looking at some other opportunities, but I want to figure out how we can make it work and then go from there, right? Makes sense, I think. I hope. We'll find out.
I'm sure it'll work out.
We'll find out tomorrow.
I am very surprised, John. You've been calling the Comstock race. I mean, I remember the last time I was on with you, I think a couple, like 8 days ago, you said, you're going to be there. You're going to be sitting there. And I was thinking to myself, John's crazy. I mean, a nice prediction. John's crazy. A little out there. Nobody will remember the day afterwards if he's wrong. If he's right, he gets to hang his hat on this one. So, congratulations. I looks like we have a real race there. And I think that's the only seat we may lose in Virginia if we lose any, correct?
I think so. I mean, the latest poll shows it tied. The Wexton campaign is in complete meltdown, freak-out mode. They don't know what hit them. Barbara's overperforming in every area. But it's a Republican trend, Sam. You can feel it. And, Sam Nunberg, if you look at early voting returns, normally, Sam, and you follow this, what happens with early voting is all the reports come in, Republicans are getting hammered, all the Democratic areas are setting records, and we have to deal with that, right? It happens every cycle. This time, it's the opposite. Why? That's my question to Sam.
It's the exact opposite. Well, there are a couple of reasons. I mean, look, all your listeners are very smart. They follow politics. And if they're ever watching, when you watch the returns on election night, presidential, for instance, when you looked at Florida, when you looked at some of the other states, you would see a lot of these key districts where Hillary Clinton would have these massive advantage, or even in these special elections, it starts out, they immediately show Democrats up by 25 points in a certain district. They front load, they get their people out, and they do early voting. You know, Ronna Romney, she's McDaniel, chairwoman of the RNC. She has received a lot of criticism from many. I have not followed it closely. And, you know, she's had a high burn rate. They were saying she overstaffed people. But look, this is a testament to her vision that she talked about when she won RNC chair, when the president nominated her. And what it shows is that we are highly organized in the field. With that said, as you know, John, we could have as many field staff as you want, as many early voting staff as you want. You still have to have an enthusiastic, high-interest electorate. The Republicans are. And that is because Donald Trump has taken on his shoulders this midterm. We have never seen this in modern-day politics. We've never seen two separate things. But the first is we've never seen a president say, this is a referendum on me. Think about what the other side wants to do to me. Steve Bannon said it early on MSNBC. He went on MSNBC for a reason. And he said it. He gave a long interview. When we promoted our new group, we talked about it specifically to Maggie Haberman and Jeremy Peters in the New York Times. This isn't for me to take credit. The point is that what we had heard was coming out of the White House was he was being advised by certain geniuses who will go unnamed that it would be okay if he lost the House because of, look, it happened to Bill Clinton. It would not have been okay if he loses this House. I want to explain to everybody listening. I know Jerry Nadler very, very well. I'm talking about family dinners. I'm talking about our brother's My brother, his son, were good friends in high school, very close friends. I'm talking about that I had been at his son's wedding. He will put articles of impeachment through the House Judiciary, send them to the Senate, effectively handcuff this president. If what you saw with Brett Kavanaugh was a dress rehearsal for what they will do to Donald Trump personally, what they will do to President Trump, what they will do to the White House, what they will do to anybody associated with this president. Look at the way Robert Mueller acts. You know, once again, I hate to digress, but Mr. Mueller, he likes to treat all of us, all Trump associates, as if we're mafia. And, you know, I like to always say without any respect towards him, I don't respect him at all. I always like to say, I just wish you treated us the way you treated Whitey Bulger when you let him commit crimes. Not to say we've committed crimes, but you're very selective on this, and you're very aggressive in a way that they would never be to Democrats. Look at what the Democrats will do. They have no right to have any power. We may not know how to wield power properly in the House, okay? We may have had a weak speaker, but the Democrats, you know, they seem to hate Putin a lot, the way Robert Mueller hates Putin a lot, but they will act exactly like Putin. That's why it's important for everybody to vote in this election. From the very minute this man won on election night, the other side felt cheated. They felt that the election was stolen from them. I look at them. I have friends in New York. They tell me the Russians delivered the election to Donald Trump. You hear it from James Clapper, former high intelligence officials of this Obama administration. And that goes to the other point of this midterm is, John, besides the fact we've never seen a president do this, you know, we've never seen his immediate successor campaign against him.
Right.
The way Barack Obama is.
Yep.
You want to talk about somebody who the rules never applied to him. They always complain about the way Trump acted. Here's a guy who in his first year and a half in office, 2 years, and then in his reelection said, you got to remember I inherited George W. Bush's economy. He's the worst president.
Right.
That's what he effectively said. It's not my fault.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
then on Election Day in 2012, Americans were still blaming the Republicans for the economy.
Right.
This guy has really trying to undo this president, too. And it is no coincidence that the FBI under him, that the DNI under him, that the CIA
Right.
under him was spying on Donald Trump's campaign.
Right.
And it is no coincidence now that he is out. But here is the good point.
Mm-hmm.
He gets 100 people at a rally. He gets 100 people. It's so bad that the media says he had 150 people. Okay, I know it, you know it. When they say 150, that means barely 100.
Right.
He has 100 people in Nevada. Donald Trump got 18,000. He had 12,000 waiting outside. He had, I think, what was it? Over 1 million people stream his rally in Texas with Ted Cruz, and not only will deliver that Senate seat, well, Cruz would have won it, but not only will make sure Cruz wins by the amount he should have, but will save the other 3 seats in Texas. And what I really think is the Democrats never saw this coming. And they never saw this coming because the conventional wisdom on the Republican side, you know, cookie cutter Paul Ryan types was, we'll run away from the president and run on tax cuts.
Right.
We would have lost 65 seats that way.
Yep, exactly.
Here we are. It's a pure toss-up, trending our way.
It's
Sorry
you're
for
right.
not letting you speak, by the way. I was filibustering.
No, you're right. No, look, you nailed it, Sam Nunberg. By the way, we're with Sam Nunberg. He was a longtime political advisor to Donald J. Trump. He was also with the Trump for President campaign, and now he's a senior advisor with Steve Bannon's new political action committee, Citizens for the American Republic. Sam, I'm excited about your PAC because you got a lot of cool things going on. And whenever Bannon gets involved in something, it's always big and bold and interesting, and it gets results. You've got your first rally today, right, in upstate New York, I believe. Tell us about that.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. It's a rally. It's look, Steve last week was in New Mexico too. We have done, initially I talked to you about our national poll. We actually went into private districts. And we have some numbers in there that we're just keeping. I'll share them with you a little later,
okay,
towards the election. But we don't want them released. And Steve has gone into Arizona 1. That's a district which the Republicans aren't putting money in, but we think we can win. Steve was in Arizona 2. Of course, he was in Arizona. He did a separate event across there. And one of the things that's amazing and this is, who would have thought Donald Trump would be the uniter, right? We know him very well. I wouldn't exactly say that, but I think the one thing is, and what I am happy about this Kavanaugh issue too, is that you saw in front of your eyes a Bushy become a Trump. And what you saw was the deplorables. You saw the Steve Bannons. You saw me coming out and say, we love you, Cocaine Mitch. Thank you very much for getting this through. It was because of your leadership, because of the president's fortitude. And Kavanaugh understood, I think, after that Fox News interview, this wasn't going to work the way you were doing this. And he had the righteous indignation. And that really not only saved the country, because we have somebody who is much more of a constructionist than Anthony Kennedy, I believe, on certain issues, although in hindsight, Anthony Kennedy got a bum rap compared to, he's not the one, of course, like our wonderful George W. Bush Chief Justice, John Roberts, who legalized Obamacare. But not only do we change the direction of the court, and I believe that this president will get another one soon, knock on wood, but I really think we change the direction of where the presidency is going to go. And it's so interrelated, John, between, forget our economy. Our economy will go bad if this president is impeached, because I think that a lot of this is about the confidence in Donald Trump, right, and his way to operate. But how is this man going to be able to continue to fight this political, economic, and frankly, everything but kinetic war he is fighting against China, trying to redo the economic supply chain? And the Democrats, and quote me on it. China, they want the Democrats to win the House. Iran, they want the Democrats to win the House. Probably North Korea wants the Democrats to win the House. And I'd say national security, man. Look at that caravan. The Democrats don't want to talk about the caravan because when we had the so-called crisis at the border before, you saw their true colors, just like the way you saw their true colors with Kavanaugh, which was the dress rehearsal for the impeachment of Donald Trump. You saw the true colors, John, of them when they said, we want to abolish ICE and prosecute our ICE officers. That's what they said. That's what they said. That's why they don't want to talk about the caravan. And CNN last night, John, did you see this? They don't want to show the caravan anymore.
Yeah, they stopped showing it, and they said they were going to stop showing it. And it's like, okay, so now not only are you fake news, but now you're going to not report real news. It's even beyond fake news. It's like CNN Stam is becoming the Onion. And, I was on that network 3 times a week for a very long time.
I remember watching you.
A long time. I was on 3 times a week since June of 2000, twice or 3 times a week, headline news and CNN since June of 2015. But it's become a sideshow. I mean, it's like the Onion. Because now, not only do what they say is fake half the time, and they got Stormy Daniels on and Avenatti talking about ridiculous stuff, but now they're not even reporting on things because they don't want to, because it's not favorable to them. It's unbelievable.
Right.
They don't want to show the caravan.
Look, their polls on these generic congressional races are outrageous. Their polls on the presidential race, as you recall, were ridiculous in 2016. But I want to think about what they did on Sunday. They are hosting, nationally televising one of the most important races this cycle in the Andrew Gillum, Ron DeSantis race. And they release a poll. Excuse me, John. They release an official poll before the debate saying Andrew Gillum is down by 12 points. You want to tell me in one of your polls, which is obviously not as good as private polling, or not as good as the seat polls, as a seat poll or St. Paul or seat poll, which is a top public poll you can get in Florida, and it's pretty consistent with everything. You want to tell me it's a 2 or 3 point race? Maybe you had maybe you ran a poll and it was like 4.5 for Gillum. Okay, maybe you're running a poll and it was 4.5 because it just came up even with your good sample for DeSantis. That's not a 12-point race.
There's no way it's 12.
That's outrageous to do that.
It's outrageous.
That's outrageous. And now they're showing that ad where Andrew Gillum takes a swipe at Fox News. That's what they're showing. I mean, they're pathetic. They are really absolutely pathetic. They really are.
Fake polls, which are fake news to drive a fake narrative to get a fake inclusion. I mean, the whole thing is so transparent. And Sam, we've been through this. I mean, I went through this in 2016, and so did you. It's all the same. And now it's even stupider than ever because you're right. I mean, there's no way that Gillum is up. The guy's a socialist, first of all. There's no way he's up by 12. And in the same poll that they released, which Governor Scott was actually ahead of Bill Nelson by 1, you had to read that entire article 3 times to get that result at the bottom, right? I mean, you have to keep reading it and say, oh, Scott's ahead. You have to read 1,000 words to get that, but the Gillum thing was in the headline. I mean, they are so ridiculous, Sam. What's the deal with this caravan? What should we do?
Well, what we should do, of course, is remember what one side wants to do with it and what the president has talked about it. I'm not going to go into – I don't really care about the situation in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. I don't care. I care about the situation in Detroit. I care about the situation in the Rust Belt. I care about the situation in these rural towns in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And those people coming in, I'm going to tell you, maybe they're not terrorists, let's say, hopefully. Maybe they're not cartel members, although, come on, some of them definitely are. But I'll tell you what they're not. I will tell you what they're definitely not, John. They're not doctors. They're not engineers. They're not scientists. They're not lawyers. Not that we need any more lawyers, by the way. Mm-hmm. But they're not your best. They're not your brightest. And they cannot be allowed in. The president has been telling these countries to stop it. Mm-hmm. And I think an example has to be made here. What I hope is the forces advising him on something like this, such as a Jim Mattis, who he's right, is a Democrat. That whole Mad Dog moniker was BS. Don't really handcuff him, and we're able to take care of the situation because it's a very important situation. With that said, also, let me plug it. I know you have before. Please send this to your friends. Trump at War by Steve Bannon. It's free of charge. 75 minutes will pump you up. TrumpAtWar.com. It's available. Please show it. And John, I want to let you know, I think we're going to get up to 15 million views before the midterm's over. Steve only had, I believe, 11 million views for Clinton Cash. So it's going gangbusters.
And you go to TrumpAtWar.com.
TrumpAtWar.com. TrumpAtWar.com. You can just find it on YouTube. Just Google it. You'll see it all over Facebook. Trump at War, the movie by Steve Bannon.
All right.
75 minutes. It's fantastic. Just watch the first 15 minutes.
I will do it. TrumpAtWar.com by Steve Bannon. Sam Nunberg, thanks for being with us. Sam is a senior advisor with Citizens for the American Republic. That's Steve Bannon's new political action committee. They got a rally in upstate New York today. And Sam, I can feel the switch coming. I can feel the red undertow coming. I think the Republicans are going to gain 5 or 6 seats in the U.S. Senate, and I think they're going to hold the House by 5.